You're listening to Find the Good News, Episode 51, The Guest House, featuring DeWanna Tarver. Find the Good News is produced by Parker Brand Creative Services, a branding agency that thinks sideways, pushes forward, and gets your brand up. See what else we do at parkerbrandup.com. Thank you for joining me for another wonderful conversation. Today I'm sharing my visit with DeWanna Tarver, the founder of DeWanna's Community Closet. If you're a teacher or if you have a child in Calcasieu Parish schools, then it's likely that DeWanna's nonprofit service has touched your life in some way. I really hope you enjoy this episode. Next week I've got a conversation full of flavor. I get to share my visit with Jelly Reynolds and Charlie Fry, the passionate food scientists behind Jam and Jelly's hot sauce, and a local business that's on track to place Southwest Louisiana on the hot sauce map. You may have heard some of my announcements about Find the Good News Live, a new element I've decided to add to the Good News family. I'm running some soft launch tests of the platform I'm using to broadcast by airing each week's episode live. If you're interested in tuning into our live platform, you can chat with me while you listen to the show. I'll be airing the show on Thursdays at 9 a.m. Follow Find the Good News on Facebook, where I'll be posting links to the broadcast. From there, you can hop over and join the live conversation. As always, your suggestions for guests of Find the Good News is what makes this show possible. If you have a suggestion, you can email it to me or send me a message through Facebook. Just head over to findthegood.news. I've got links to all my social media pages there, and you can email me from there as well. I'm all out of announcements this week, so take a big, deep breath, inhale some love and light, blow out your anxiety, and shake off some stress. Clear your mind, open your heart. Now press play on a little good news. I don't know if you have children, but if you do, as I do, then you've had to dig deep when summer ends and it's time to buy school clothes, uniforms, and supplies. Sometimes life takes a turn for the better. Your resources become more plentiful, and paying for school supplies and fees aren't such a heavy burden. For many, that turn has not arrived. For some, it never does. I've been in that situation before, shaving money from places that were already thin to ensure my children could attend public school with the minimum requirements. There were times when I couldn't afford all new uniforms, secretly praying that my children wouldn't grow much over the summer, hoping I could squeeze a little more time out of a pair of pants, shoes, or shirts. It is a reality for many parents in Calcasieu Parish. It was this stark realization that motivated DeWanna Tarver to take action. That action evolved into DeWanna's Community Closet, a nonprofit service that now provides school uniforms, shoes, undergarments, and school supplies to children all across Calcasieu Parish. I'd heard of DeWanna's Community Closet before, but I didn't really understand the full scope of the service. So I asked DeWanna to come visit me on Find the Good News. What I learned, and what touched my heart the most, is that for so long the teachers of Calcasieu Parish, and I'm sure teachers around the country, were meeting the needs of the children in their classrooms with their own funds. As DeWanna explains, teachers are on the front line, seeing and assessing the students' needs directly, and for years they were doing this on their own. In its earliest incarnation, DeWanna's Community Closet was no closet at all. It was just DeWanna, her keen sense for sniffing out good deals, purchasing items herself, and bringing them to schools for students with potential needs. This original inspiration has unfolded and expanded to a fully stocked facility, formerly DeWanna's Guest House, that offers brand new uniforms, undergarments, supplies, shoes, and other resources for educators in Calcasieu Parish. Through the ongoing generosity of DeWanna's patrons, this facility is able to deliver much-needed resources directly to schools in Calcasieu, with systems in place for teachers to request specific items. Because DeWanna Tarver listened to her heart, her eyes were open to the needs that parents, teachers, and children face at the beginning of each school year. Because her heart moved her to action, DeWanna's Community Closet exists to serve. This year, when I went school supply shopping, I noticed that the list was shorter, something I'd not paid attention to in recent years past. On the sheet, it mentioned all the businesses and individuals that donated to help provide the remainder of the school items. On that sheet, I saw the logo for DeWanna's Community Closet. My eyes filled with tears and my heart swelled. I knew somewhere there was a father that was in my shoes all those years ago, worrying, shaving funds, not sure how he was going to get everything his children needed. As I meditated on that mystery father, I was comforted, knowing that his burden was made lighter. I am so thankful for DeWanna Tarver, and that her goodness and love manifested to meet the needs of so many families in our area.
Wake up, it's morning. You're dreaming up a story. I can hear the way it's going, 'cause you're laughing in your sleep on the path to your deliverance, and a holy wall of light pouring through your window.
Old news, bad news, fake news. Sometimes you just want to shut it all down and get no news at all. With Find the Good News, I aim to change that by focusing on good people doing good work. I visit with artists, educators, civic and spiritual leaders, musicians, business owners, students, volunteers, and everyday citizens who are using their creativity, resources, and talents to bring hope and happiness to their corner of the world. In each episode, I dig into the hearts and minds of my extraordinary guests. We have street-level conversations about relatable things going on in their lives. Discover the critical life experiences that shape them, the perspectives that drive them, and the fundamental beliefs that are anchoring them to a path of goodness. There's a lot of news in the world. My name is Oran Parker, and I'm going to find the good.
And I love you just as well.
Thanks for coming.
You're welcome. So where does this air?
Well, it actually isn't like the radio. It's all online.
Okay.
And so with a podcast, it's basically once you load it to where you're hosting it, it gets pushed out to all the podcast platforms, right? So Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Podbean. It's really just everywhere. YouTube.
You're talking to somebody who knows nothing.
Basically, it's everywhere people listen to podcasts.
Okay.
And then some extras too. Like I upload it to SoundCloud and YouTube because some people listen to podcasts on YouTube. They'll just play the video, and we don't have a video with it, but we just have like a graphic. And then they'll just play it right there and listen to it while they're at work.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's actually, we got about 10,000 listeners.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's not...
I mean, to me, that sounds like a lot.
It is a lot for a new show. The show started last October.
Okay.
And so it was kind of I guess, an experiment. You know, I for me, it was a personal exercise because there's so much news, right? And it just hits you from all these directions, and I was like, man, it's so easy to just fall down the rabbit hole and kind of get negative and just see all the bad things, because there's a lot of bad. I mean, I don't want to ignore it, but my thought was, well, what if I just intentionally focus on good people doing good things, see what happens? And so it just kind of blossomed into this venture.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. Honestly, it's been really good for me, and I'm finding that it's been good for other people. I mean, I can't tell you what everybody feels, but I mean, the response has been positive. I mean, it's kind of hard to be negative about people who are giving of themselves out in the community.
So can you find podcasts by topic?
You can.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, if you are interested in podcast listening, I mean, I was kind of new to it. I discovered it by accident up here working one day on a weekend, and I was looking up an actor and a topic that he had heard he had talked about. Well, when I was online looking to hear what he said, I stumbled on a podcast he was on, and I said, oh, I'm going to listen to it. And it just kind of made me go down that hole. And as I went in there, I said, man, there's a whole world in here. If you like listening to audiobooks, which I don't know if you do.
I don't.
I'm not.
See, when I'm in my car, that's my alone time and my quiet time, or either I'm on my phone trying to handle stuff I couldn't handle at home. So that's my time. But I'm thinking, like, if I wanted to find like nonprofits to see what other nonprofits were doing, and I could go listen to people talking about them.
Okay, I mean, you can look up
that.
You should. I mean, I do that all the time, and I find new things. And what I really find is, especially with subjects like you just said, if I'm interested in a person or even an author, like if I read a book and I'm like, I really like this person's book, I'll go into my podcast app and just search their name. Well, what I found is, I mean, that person has been interviewed by multiple podcasts. And so I get to go actually listen to the person, and they'll talk about the book, and like actually it gets just like another layer to it. I really enjoyed it, and I've learned a lot too.
That's cool.
And we didn't have anything like that here.
Are you from here?
I am from here, from Sulphur, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, where are you from?
I'm originally from a little town called Gina, which is in
I know where it's at.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah.
I live there.
I'd say a Jeaner up there.
Jeaner,
Yeah.
that's right. J-E-N-A, so it has an R on the end
That's
of
right.
it, Jeaner. And I lived there until I was 8, and then we moved here.
Really?
So, yes.
That's funny.
I'm
So-
going there. What's today? Tuesday. I'm going there Thursday.
Really?
Thursday,
Do you
yes.
just go up as a family?
My
or?
family's still. My parents are here, but my grandmother is still there. 99. She'll be 100 in
Wow.
December, and then I have aunts and cousins and everything.
Oh,
there.
wow.
So yeah,
Jeaner. That's
yes.
so crazy. I lived in Natchitoches for
Okay.
a while. And so it was kind of in that neck of the woods,
Yeah.
Winfield, and,
Yeah.
all of that, that territory. And so
Yeah.
I would meet people. I didn't really even, when I moved up there, I didn't know where it was, but I would
Yeah.
meet people from there, and I just remember
Yes.
the
Yes.
word specifically.
Yeah. It was forever that if your name was EVA, I just assumed it was Ever.
Ever.
And I did not really know that Eva was a name. Okay.
Yeah. That part of that's so interesting. I love this show because you never know what you're going to talk about. We just jump right in. And that part of Louisiana is always fascinating. I take a trip up there in August every year. It's like a little personal retreat / getaway. And I don't know. It's like, to me, when I get past Kisatchie, everything sort of changes.
It does.
It's like doesn't feel like Louisiana anymore.
It is it's very different. The food is very different.
Yeah.
The speech is very different.
Yeah.
Both wonderful. I mean,
Yeah.
but very, very different.
Yeah, I know that the lieutenant governor's push right now is these Louisiana staycations. He's trying to encourage people to not go, to at least pick one trip that you're going to take and make it a in-state trip. And I always say that, I'm like, yeah, if you go north and you kind of head northeast, even northwest, you're going to get a different experience than
Yes.
what you get along the Gulf
Definitely,
Coast for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, that's exciting.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
an interesting little
It was.
node.
Yes. The first time I was flipping channels and found Duck Dynasty, I had no clue what it was, but I have relatives that live in West Monroe, and it's like they talk just like my cousins. Like I have to watch this show. That's just sounds just like my cousins.
Yeah.
Because that's really how they talk. Their their dialect and
Well,
stuff.
that's interesting because I felt that way when I moved to Natchitoches. I went to college there, and I just always had my heart was kind of there. I loved it in the little town, but before I had moved there, my only exposure was the movie Still Magnolias and a couple of other movies that had been filmed there. And so, when I got there, that's kind of what my mind was expecting. And then I realized that was my first, I guess, encounter with Louisiana culture portrayed in film versus the reality.
Yeah.
And so it was very stark contrast. I was like, oh wow, nobody talks like this.
Yes.
It was really clear
Yeah.
that this wasn't reality. This is sensationalized Louisiana.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. We have a wonderful state.
We do.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it.
So I looked you up. I mean, so this is a lot of times people recommend people for the show, but somehow or another I was online and someone had reposted DeWanna's Closet, something you had posted, and I said, okay, I keep seeing this, and again, looking for good news. I said, I don't really know anything about it, but I have heard of DeWanna's Closet for years. And so I said, well, let me just go look. And so I went onto your Facebook page and kind of did my little light cyber research, and I was like, wow, so this is a whole program that I guess I've heard the name, but never put two and two together, didn't go digging. And I just said, after I looked into it, I said, this is somebody I need to talk to.
Okay.
So tell me and tell the people listening about DeWanna's Closet, what you do, and we'll just dive off a cliff from there.
Go. First of all, the name, DeWanna's Closet. And this is not part of my speech when I go out and speak, but this came up just a couple of weeks ago. I didn't name it and I would not have named it DeWanna's Closet, because to me that's very arrogant to stick your name on something.
Parker Brand.
Parker Brand, you arrogant thing, you.
I know.
But we were located in a school originally. The school board. We are not part of the school board or the school system. Separate entity, totally. But when they found out what we were doing and what our vision was, they agreed to give us a room in a school to operate out of.
Okay.
So we had a room in JD Clifton down in North Lake Charles on Prater Street.
Okay.
Had a room, and so the principal and the people helping us there named it DeWanna's Community Closet. They designed designed a logo and did everything.
So they did all that.
They did all that.
I got you.
And so when they told me about it, I was so bothered. I went and talked to my pastor about it, and I said,
Really?
this is, it's got my name on it, and I was literally crying, and I said, I don't. That's so arrogant. And I know in the back of his mind, he was thinking, get out of my office. There's people with real problems in this world. Would you leave me alone? But he was not. He was very compassionate and said, you should be honored, and the program needs a face, and you're obviously going to be the face of it. You're the, so get over it. Get out there and get
Just
busy.
embrace it and
go with it. So we go for it. Now, when we talk about it, we just call it the closet, because DeWanna's community closet. That's so long. But that's how our 501c3 and everything. And I'm very honored and flattered that they did that, and that was a very sweet thing. But I would not have named it that, because I don't even like the name DeWanna. My mama gave me that, and I don't even like it. But anyway, that's how DeWanna's Closet, the name, came to be. The way the program came to be is, first of all, I am a great shopper, and I believe that's a gift from God. I have trouble convincing Philip of that. But I've always had this ability. Philip would travel, and so while he was out doing his business meetings, I would find the outlet malls and go shopping, and I could always find the corner that had the cheap stuff in it. And I would find clothes really, really inexpensively and stuff, and some of those things would be school uniforms, and I would bring them back, and then we would just go drop them off at schools. But mainly at the beginning of the school year. That was always my focus. Oh, it's the beginning of school. There's, I need to do this, and so we would kind of do it. And anyway, well, that's not always true. Anyway, but I would do that anyway. So we would have them, but never in great volume. Always just a few things here and a few things there. And always originally my thought was North Lake Charles. I mean, I live in Lake Charles, North Lake Charles. That's where the need is. And I would go drop some things off there, but never in great volume. And we did this for years. I was raised very middle income. My dad worked at a plant. My mom was a nurse that worked in doctor's offices. Very typical. By the time we got off school, my mama was there with warm cookies. We had dinner. I mean, we were June Cleaver, Beaver Cleaver, that type family. Philip was raised a little differently. There were 8 kids. His mom was a stay-at-home mom. His dad worked, but they struggled a little more. So school clothes was something that he did not always have plenty of. And there were actually teachers back in elementary school that bought him clothes back in elementary school. So this was something that he had mentioned to me, but never dwelt on it. It was never a real issue.
I knew it, but didn't like linger.
Never, because he never, he never dwelt on that, on anything like that, but I knew that happened, so we just always kind of did it. But my shopping got to be more and more and more, and my house became worse and worse and worse with all these piles. And so one year I just told my Sunday school class, I said, I need some help. This is really getting out of hand. And so they came and saw all these clothes, and we divided them all up in sizes and got them delivered. And they were saying, it's kind of like an intervention. You really, really need help. This is getting out of control. And so about that same time is when the principal at J.D. Clifton called me and said, I know you drop off clothes occasionally, but what I really need is underwear. She said, my kids have accidents at school. We don't have underwear for them, and they miss class. Then they have to sit in a counselor's class or something, and these kids are missing class because we don't have underwear. Can you bring me underwear? So I went out and bought underwear, and went to give them to her. And I said, I just kind of I need a place. I need a place where we can set up a permanent place where we can be in operation all year long, and not just this when I find stuff on sale, dropping it off at the beginning of the year. And so she said, sure. So originally she said she had a closet, and then when I started bringing bags and bags of stuff, she said, oh my goodness, let me see. So they ended up more than a closet. So they opened up a room, and in October of 2016 we had our grand opening. And it was very important to me that the first time the public see it be very, very presentable. It not be like a garage sale. I wanted them to say, okay, these people are serious about what they're doing. And we didn't have any. We literally came in black trash bags with everything in it, and we didn't have any display cases. And JCPenney's donated all new racks.
Wow.
So we were set up. If you go to our Facebook page, there's a video called The Beginning, and it shows how we were set up. And we had, our display racks with all of our clothes by size. Our shoes were displayed. Our belts were displayed. And so the first time that these counselors and teachers and principals and the mayor, and they all came in, this was set up very, very professionally.
And I'm happy, I know it.
If you're like me, then you've got a long wish list of things you need to do around your house. Things you just can't get to. It's not that I don't want to do them, but between my responsibilities at work, producing this show, and squeezing in some valuable mental downtime, I can't seem to get around to fixing the small stuff, and the big stuff is just waiting in line. To be honest, it kind of stresses me out. Maybe you're stressing out too. Well, stress no more, because I've got good news. My friend Ben Von Duke has started a handyman service, and he takes the mystery out of getting these things done. Ben Von Duke is not just some guy that calls himself handy. He knows what he's doing, and he knows a whole lot. Not only is he an experienced and professional carpenter, but he's kind of a Duke of all trades. What I love is that he's created an a la carte price list of services, so you don't have to worry about getting in your pockets too deep before you're ready. He'll fix your running toilet, install appliances, replace fixtures, install ceiling fans, repair sheetrock and concrete, and a whole lot more than that. Look, I'm not too proud to say this, but sometimes it takes me 3 times as long to fix something because I've got to get online and search videos just to figure out what tools I need. Then I have to go buy the tools that I don't have, and then kind of sort of come home and do the job. I don't have to do that anymore because Ben Von Duke will do it and do it better. On top of all that, he's just a good person, someone you can trust. He's honest, he's kind, and those are things that I value highly, and I bet you do too. You can get a hold of Ben Von Duke, the Duke of all trades, the good old-fashioned way, by using the phone. Call or text Ben at 337-540-1355. That's 337-540-1355. He'll send you his service and price list, and trust me, his prices are more than fair. And do me a favor, when you do message Ben at 337-540-1355, tell him you heard about the Duke of all trades on Find the Good News.
The way we work is we're not open to the public. You have to be an educator in the Calcasieu Parish School Board system to use us.
I see.
We felt like if we opened to the public, we would be empty in probably 2 weeks' time.
Right.
And we felt like these educators are on the front. They're on the battlefield every day. They see these kids that really have needs. And so the way it works is they email us. We're open 1 day a week on Thursday. So all week we gather these emails. On Thursdays we go in and fill orders, and then we deliver them to the schools Thursday afternoons and Fridays.
So, okay, that's a lot. I want to jump back.
You're
because
thinking, shut up, DeWanna.
No.
Okay.
My brain's spinning because I was like, oh man, so we fast forwarded through the beginning here. So this started out, you were just doing this on your own,
on my own,
right? So you would just go, hey, you thought of this need, and you were just doing it sort of like going to the school, one school at a time,
and trying to figure out, like, when I'd have a pair of shoes that were size 3, is this an elementary size? Is this a middle school size? Where do I bring these shoes? I don't even know what size kid wears these shoes.
Yeah, but you would see the deal and acquire the good, and then go, where can I drop this off at? Place this?
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
that's that. And so, how were you doing that? Were you just going to the schools one at a time?
Yeah, just literally dropping off a bag of new clothes and saying, here, I'm sure you have some child that needs this. And they were all very grateful. And when I would see how grateful they were, I'm thinking, man, this must be a bigger deal than I think. I'm still, and this is no lie, I'm 60 years old now, and still at the age of 50, I was still naive enough to think that on the first day of school, every child came to school with new clothes and new shoes. Now, how I thought they got it, I don't know. But I still lived in such a little bubble that I thought, okay, the first day of school, every child has new clothes. Now, maybe by January, their clothes are getting worn out and their parents can't afford to. But I don't know how I thought that. Because that's the way I was raised. That's the way my children were raised. That's the way my friends' kids were raised. And I still thought that was the existence. And finally, I have a teacher friend who said, DeWanna, the very first day of school, there's kids who show up whose shoes have holes in them, whose pants are too short for them. No, don't be stupid. The first day of school, there's kids who need clothes.
DeWanna, how valuable is that awareness, do you think?
Oh, it was tremendous to realize. We've had a principal tell us that they gave the child his clothes, and they noticed he was smelling them. And finally they realized that child had never smelt new clothes, had no idea the smell of a new shirt. And everything we give is new. We feel like the kids that we're helping there's nothing wrong with reusing clothes. I believe in stretching our dollars, but the kids we're helping, we want them to realize that they're important enough for this community to say, you know what, here's your brand new shirt. It's still got the tags on it. We love you this much. Here's your brand new shoes. We love you this much.
It's so interesting, man, how that affects a kid's mind. And the awareness, I try to teach that to my all my kids. I think that they all have a healthy dose of that understanding, but I don't want them to go through life I want them to go through life realizing that when they do have things, that it's a blessing. It's not something that we deserve. It's something that we're kind of blessed with. We're lucky. A lot of that's chance to be born where that we were born and the circumstances we're born in. That's a lot of it, and that's not something that I had a choice over.
Right.
And I try to really put that in them, especially with their peers, and go, look, kind of always keep an eye out for somebody with a need, right? I mean, it's such a valuable tool that I hope will serve them, because I mean, in your life, look how it served you to be able to see that.
Yes. Now, and the fact that you're teaching your children that at an early age. I was raised in a home that always did for others. I'm very blessed. I mean, my dad was always out there mowing the old people's yard. And my dad is 88. He's still out there mowing the old people's yards.
Yeah.
But we always had people in our home for meals and always bringing food if there was someone sick. So I was raised to see needs and help meet those needs. So I was very blessed that I was raised that way. Another story that touched me is we had sent clothes to Vinton Elementary, I believe it was. A child had been removed from their home for abuse and was living with a relative and came with no clothes or no anything. So the school checked to see if we could provide uniforms, and we did. And we had a chance to visit with the principal a few weeks after that, and she said, if you could have seen that child when we put on her clothes, it was a little skort, because apparently skorts don't sell well, so they're always on sale. So we always buy the sale stuff. And said she put it on and she spun around and it spun, and said if you could have seen the look on her face. And the principal said, we don't know how long this little girl will be with us, and said we may not teach her a thing, but we know we'll always be remembered as the school that loved her enough to give her clothes.
Yeah.
And I thought, how amazing is that this community, made that impact on that child.
Yeah, that's, you can probably tell. I mean, I mean, I can't even imagine being on the front line like that. I don't always get an opportunity to serve, or I don't always look. I mean, I'm being honest. I mean, a lot of times I'm ashamed of that. And the one thing that just always pops in my head that I tell my kids and I tell other people that are in close contact with me, I said the very least we can do is not look away. Right? I mean, because that's another plague I think that we have in our world, is just the looking away and going, I can't think about it. My wife and I were just talking about that. I said, I hear so often, especially on this type of show, because I interact with so many different people in different categories of doing good, right? And one thing that I do notice sometimes in different conversations that have generated outside of this circle is serenity is very important to people. People want to feel at peace. They want to have their stability of mind, and they want to say, I don't want to be stressed out. I mean, nobody wants to feel those things.
Comfort zone.
I want my comfort zone.
I like it right here.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we were kind of getting into a conversation about that this morning. I said, I think sometimes apathy can disguise itself as serenity. And I hear that sometimes when I hear someone say, well, look, I get all these problems, but I can't think about that, or my serenity goes away. And that's just one version of that statement. And I'm like, is that really serenity, or is that willful apathy? Because I mean, we're all guilty to some degree or another of going, okay, I can't worry about that. That's somebody else's problem. If I start getting over in there, then mine gets,
and what can I do? I'm just one person.
Gridlock.
Too. Yes.
Yeah.
What can I do?
Do you ever feel that?
Yeah, I do. I did. And one of the things that I think, if God would have shown me to start with what I was going to see, I would have just balled up and gone to bed. It's like, whoop, can't do it.
So big.
It was so big. And when we started, because I knew it was going to start, but I hadn't really told except my little core group, and which is mainly made up of retired teachers. My board of directors, there's 9, and 6 of them are retired teachers. And we were going down and working and everything, but then I made it Facebook official. Once you make it Facebook official, it's official.
Right.
And so we did our post and everything, and I remember laying in bed that night and thinking, okay, I have just promised to provide underwear to 35,000 children.
Wow.
That's pretty scary. But within a few days, we had received a call because I'm still thinking North Lake Charles, that's where I'm going to be working. You know, that's where our place is. God's planted me there. That's where the need is. I'm still thinking, I know what's going on. Within a few days of that Facebook post, we received a call from the school closest to my home, which is St. John Elementary. You can almost see the sign from my house. And they said, we know what you're doing. You're not open yet, but we have a child who needs shoes. Can we come get them? So, of course, we said yes. They came. They called us 3 days later and said the parents sold, S-O-L-D, the shoes we got from you. Can we come get another pair? If we can, when the little girl gets off the bus, we'll put on her good shoes, and when she gets back on the bus, we'll take off her shoes. And I'm thinking, okay, that's close to my house. That's not what I was expecting. Also, before we opened Prien Lake Elementary School, which is, the rich school, that's people's perception, the rich school, they contacted us and they said, we have a student that we're bathing every day so that child won't be made fun of. If you could give us a couple of extra changes of clothes, then we could wash them, and it would make it easier on us. And I'm thinking, okay, God, I get it. I think I know where my mission is. It's in North Lake Charles, and all of a sudden, 2 schools within 2 miles of my home, you have shown me, okay, girl, you don't have a clue. You don't have a clue what you're in for.
Yeah.
And it has truly been, I can say, the need is truly across the parish. It is not in one part more than the other part. There is not a school in the parish. Now, I will have to say probably T.S. Cooley, which is the magnet school in Lake Charles, probably has the least of any of the schools. It's a very unique situation. But other than that, every school in Calcasieu Parish has these needs that we see. There's not a school that doesn't have them. And that's one of the things that I was not prepared to see. And I have seen.
It's interesting. I mean, I have so many thoughts and feelings just kind of running through me right now. I mean, just these 2 stories, just those little things. I have this, been like this since I was a kid, and I used to think of it as a problem, but I've come to just lean into it. And it's like whenever somebody starts telling a story.
There's that was my water bottle popping. Okay.
Somebody starts telling a story of somebody suffering. Then I'm going to use that word. I mean, suffering, don't mean like, suffering has different levels. Yeah. But when somebody starts telling a story about that, it really just, I don't know, I visualize it. I can't help but like almost put myself in an observer role, like as if I'm just watching these teachers, as you're telling these stories, and it just really gets inside my heart. I mean, how valuable are the teachers to your work?
For years, I think these teachers have been doing this, and I didn't know. I mean, I had no clue that these teachers were seeing this every day, that they were trying to meet these needs every day. And I think when we talk about us becoming blind to needs or not looking, they almost had to be able to function, because there's no way a teacher financially or emotionally can go out and meet all these needs.
Right.
And so they almost had to blind themselves to a lot of these needs. After about the first year, and I went and met with Mr. Brookhouse down at the school system, he said, you know, DeWanna, we're going to have to completely retrain our teachers. He said, because for the first time in the history of this parish, there's no teacher in this parish that has to buy a pair of underwear when she sees it needed, or a pair of shoes when they see it needed for a student. They don't have to do that. All they have to do is shoot off an email. When they run out of pencils in their class, all they have to do is send out an email, and those things are going to be there, because now we've gotten into supplies.
Oh, okay, that was what I was going to ask.
Supplies, we've gone there now. He said, never before have these teachers had that. He said, so you've completely we've got to retrain them. All of a sudden, all they've got to do is teach and love. That's what we're telling them as a parish now. And it's so neat to do that. And I had a teacher come and tell me, she said, we were sitting around the other day talking, because I guess that's all teachers do. Not really. That's not what all teachers do. She said, we were sitting around talking, and she said, it's like, since this program has started, we feel more respected than we have ever felt. And I think when I go out and speak, I raise awareness of, did we realize that these teachers were trying to do this? And, that teacher would tell me when she would see a child, the first thing she would do would go to her own child's closet and see if there was something that maybe she could pass down from her child's closet. And if not, she would call her relatives and say, do y'all have a coat in this size? And if not, then she would try to go to a store and find something that she could afford to buy to put a coat on her student. And these teachers, that was just a way of life for them. That's what they did, is they tried to provide not only for their families, but for their their students' families. And so now we as a community have stood up and said, teachers, you don't have to do that anymore. We've got your back. We're going to take care of you.
Where did the funds come from to purchase the goods now? I mean, you were doing that out of your own pocket originally, right?
And when we started, and I tell this as a joke, but it's the truth, Philip gave me $25,000. And he said, if I'm going to give you this because I know it's very important to you that when it opens, it looks stocked and it looked fully funded. And so I joke, and he gave me 25 and I took 35, and that's the honest to goodness truth. And I hoped he wouldn't notice the 10 extra, but he did. But anyway, so we spent $35,000 of our own money to buy the stuff, and we shopped very smart. And it was in October when we opened, so by that time all the school clothes had gone on sale, and so we bought everything on sale and used coupons, did everything we could, and stocked it for $35,000. And since then the community has totally funded it.
The community as in
Calcasieu Parish, individuals. Yes,
okay.
It is so cool. I will have somebody in Walmart see me and hand me a $5 bill and just say, we know what you're doing and here's this. And that is that blesses me as much as a plant handing me $10,000.
Yeah, I think about this every year. I'm so glad I'm talking to you because it's just this awareness that others don't have what you have. I mean, I don't want to feel guilty. I try to tell that to my kids. I said, I don't want you to walk around feeling guilty for having something. I don't want you to feel guilty because you got new shoes. I just want you to understand the value of what you have, and then also remember, just have an awareness that other people don't always have these same blessings, and we owe it back to some degree to at least know that that's the truth. And then when we have an opportunity to help. Right. And I think that's so important. It's so important to just have that awareness, just to begin with that.
And I'm happy, I know it. I'm helpless.
Look, as much as I enjoy talking on Find the Good News about making a change, I'd be less than honest if I didn't admit that change is hard sometimes. I should get more quiet time. I should exercise more, walk more, sleep more. And the one thing that I know I should do, without a doubt, is eat better, healthier, and fresher. But there's a wide berth between knowing something and actually doing something about it. I love to cook, but just like those other should do's, I don't always make the time. This is where I have to tell you about Fresh Fuel, because it takes procrastination out of my way. Fresh Fuel is a fresh take on getting healthy, wholesome, and satisfying foods in your life as a kickstarter to critical change that lasts. When you sign up for a Fresh Fuel program at thefreshfuel.com, you'll find tiers for your specific level of can't get up and go. I know I found mine. My friend and founder of Fresh Fuel, Megan Abraham, wants to do one thing and one thing only. She wants you and your family to eat healthier, delicious, home-cooked meals. That's it. With Fresh Fuel, Megan has taken all of the I can't do it out of putting better meals in front of the people you care about. And she's quick to remind that one of those people should include you. Go to thefreshfuel.com and choose the program that's right for you. Megan provides you with the recipes, supply lists, links, videos, goals, and very important here, access to the Fresh Fuel Facebook group, where you can connect with other Fresh Fuelers, real people just like you and me, making the same journey. What I love most about meal prepping with Fresh Fuel is that you don't have to do it alone. Megan is right there with you every step of the way, making the same changes you are. Fresh Fuel isn't a diet. It's a life change for those of us that just have trouble changing. Since I signed up for Fresh Fuel, I'm cooking more, eating better, and honestly, I'm feeling better too. I believe in Fresh Fuel so much that I asked Megan to offer Find the Good News listeners a chance to try it out at a discount. Just go to thefreshfuel.com, select one of Megan's signature programs, Fresh Fuel 28, the 28 Plus, or the 28 Pro plan, and then enter the code Good News to get 10% off your program. That's 10% off a Fresh Fuel signature program by visiting thefreshfuel.com and entering the code Good News. Fresh Fuel has been good news in my life, and I'm betting that thefreshfuel.com will be good news for you too. And I mean, listening to what you're talking about, I'm fascinated by it because I've talked to so many people on this show. Just a few episodes back, there was a gentleman whose story started very similar to yours. Different service, different need, totally, but it was the same way. It was like he started doing this thing kind of in a small way. because it moved his heart. And then it's turned into some like huge thing, and now he's got, a whole system behind it now. And I thought, wow, this is interesting. I love how this starts, how this little seed gets planted inside of your heart, and then it just begins to unfold like a lotus or something. Just keeps the petals just keep pouring out, and then now there's all this support. I love that. It
is. Sometimes I almost feel guilty because it has been so it's been so easy, and I don't want to say easy in not that, I mean, we work and the girls, we're all old women, but we call ourselves girls because it makes us feel good. We have put blood, sweat, and tears into it, and the hours we put into it. So I don't mean easy in that way,
right?
But I mean easy when it came time, because for the first few months we worked under the school. Even though we weren't part of the school system, we weren't a 501c3. So we worked under them. So when anybody wanted to make a donation, they would write a check to the school we were located in.
Okay.
Then I would turn in all my receipts to the school, and then we would be reimbursed that way.
I see.
Which was a headache because I am not a record keeper. Like, I don't even sign checks on DeWanna's Closet account because that is, oh my goodness, that's not my strong point. And I know it's not, and I acknowledge that. And so, like, more than once I had to go down to the auditors at the school board and say, look, I'm trying to do my best, please don't yell at me. Anyway, so, and they all love me, and they were all very supportive, but anyway, so.
Well, you focus on your strengths.
Yes, I do, and mine is not in keeping up with receipts and records, and I know that, so I do my best. So anyway, so we have an attorney friend who came and said, look, I know what you're doing, and it's great, and I want to do all the paperwork for your 501c3 as my gift to you. So I didn't have to pay for that. We didn't have to pay for that. And he made it so I only had to answer a very few questions, and Philip answered most of those, because if I would have had to sit down and filled out paperwork, it would have never gotten done. So that was something we didn't have to struggle with. And the school board called us very early on and said, look, we have a plant that is wanting to do something to make an impact in the community, and we've just told them about your program, and they want to give you $10,000. And it's just been... we've had so many things like that come on. Now, that doesn't mean I don't get out there and I go speak and I beg for money. I do it. But still, it's been, we haven't had the struggles a lot of nonprofits have had. We've been very, very blessed.
Yeah.
And we don't take that for granted.
Well, and that's what I guess I've learned in this last year doing this, is that there are so many needs, and it's a kaleidoscope. I mean, it's manifold. Every direction you look, I mean, you're servicing these needs, and they are real needs. And there's just so many. I mean, on so many levels, and there's just so many people that are working, that are trying to help put a salve or a balm on all these things that people need. And it can bring you almost, I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean, I tend to lean, if I'm being truthful, I tend to lean a little more on the despair side. I get a little sorrowful. Right? Does that make sense? And I have to watch it because that I can slide off into that. And I wonder, in your work, have you ever experienced that?
Yes. And like, I can't think the way my attitude has had to be, and my thinking is, I can't control at all what happens before that child steps off that bus at that school, and I can't control what happens once that child gets home. All I can do is make those few hours at school the very best possible, and I can give that teacher every opportunity she can to love and impact that child. I can remove as much worry from that child as, even Philip says that there were times that he sat in class and he knew he should be concentrating on that teacher, but he was concentrating on the clothes another child had on that looked different than what he had on. And that his shoes weren't quite like everybody else's. And instead of concentrating on what he should have been. And I just want that child, when they step off that bus, to not have to try to hide their shoes or hide the stains in their shirt, to just be able to, flop around like every other kid until the bell rings, and then go in, and when the teacher says pull out your pencil, not have to like shrink down again because they know they don't have a pencil, to be able to pull out that pencil. And when that teacher looks at that child, I don't want her heart to break because she sees the big hole in the shirt. I want her just to be able to look at that child and to love that child and to pour everything she has into that child without all these things that we can control, because we can control shirts and pants and pencils. Those are things we can control.
Yeah.
And okay, I'm getting passionate.
No,
and I'm
it's
preaching.
please,
Okay.
dude, because I'm feeling you. I feel the energy coming off
yes.
of you. I agree with everything you're saying.
Another thing
it's so
I had to overcome is, don't you realize you're just making it easier on the parents? You know, they're not having to buy these things. They weren't going to buy them anyway. But I did have to overcome that. It's like, you know, they're not going to buy them anyway, and I can't. That's for them. They have to deal with that, and they have to live with that in their choices. You know, I'm just not going to worry about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just going to talk about this because it's in my head. It makes me think of something that happens to me a lot, or something I see a lot. I like to thrift shop. I like to go to diggy stores, and just to find neat things. A lot of the stuff in here is just things that I go, oh, that's different, or that's neat, or it has a meaning. And so I go to places like Goodwill or Salvation Army or secondhand stores, but I'm not going there. And this is clear to me. When I go to Care Help in Sulphur, I'm not going to Care Help because my pants have holes in them. And I'm not digging through the rack to find my waist size and my length because I need the cleanest pair of pants to go to a job interview or a belt or because my pants are falling down because I haven't eaten. And so when I go in those places, I'm not gonna lie, like sometimes I do in my peripheral senses, whatever they are, I do see people who are there, and it's painfully clear to me that we're here for two different reasons. And I just go, and I've gotten to where that's almost become like my I don't know how to frame this, like a spiritual exercise sometimes, to just go in there, and I hate to say eavesdrop, but just to sense that and remind myself that I'm not here out of need. I'm here to see what other people have thrown away that I can rummage and find and maybe sit on a shelf or find something that is odd or cool.
The game, the hunt.
Hunt, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Like an antique shopper type of mentality.
Yeah.
But there's other people, and I watched it the other day. I was in there, and I watched a father with his child, trying to find clothes to fit his little girl, and it was tense. And it was almost like you could just sense the survival mode of the whole thing.
Yes.
And it just, I think it's, again, I get back to awareness, how much value is there in awareness. Sometimes it makes me feel guilty for having resources or not using them better or squandering them on luxuries. I don't know. It's just something that it scratches at my brain a little bit. And listening to you talk about that, I think about it, and the word that I keep thinking of is like the bleed. Like, I wonder how hard that is, and you really did illustrate it really well to not bleed into these other territories, when once you sense that a child isn't being provided for, they don't have shoes, they don't have clean underwear, they don't have even toiletries, their hair is not combed, they haven't taken a bath, whatever it may be, you can slide off into this sort of play that forward and go, well, what else is going on?
Right.
Are they fed?
Right.
Is there even a parent at home?
Right.
And you just,
and
where do you stop?
Sometimes I had an elementary school tell me, there was a 7-year-old girl that was getting herself ready for school every morning because her mom had to be to work early, and she would forget to put on underwear. And so we sent underwear to the school so that when she would get there with no underwear, they had underwear to put on her. And this was a mom that was trying to work, but she had, and the little girl would get ready, and the mom was doing the best she could do. One of my very favorite stories is one of the rural elementary schools here in Calcasieu Parish called us, and they had a little boy in kindergarten that had TT'd on himself, so he was being raised by a single dad. They called the single dad and said, you need to come bring us some clothes so we can get him back in class. And the dad came and said, I'll have to pick him up. This is his only uniform. He has one, and so I have to bring him home. So the little boy missed the rest of the day out of class again. That's what we don't want these kids. We want them in class. And the school called us, said, this little boy comes to school clean every day. We had no idea there was any issue in this home, or much less that he had one uniform. So here was a dad, single dad, doing the very best he could do, keeping his kids spot spot and span, spick and span, keeping his kid clean. Anyway, so we sent the 2 complete new sets of uniforms, new shoes, new underwear, everything. But here was a dad not asking for help, didn't want anybody to know he needed help. But anyway, we were able to help that. So it's not always those with their hands out. Sometimes there's just people out there like that, and so we were able to meet that need. That's one that makes you feel good about. One of our things, once the money came in and we felt that we were pretty secure funded for our clothes, then that's when we got into the supplies. We said, okay, we've got the kid. He looks good. He feels good. He goes, sits down in class. And then the teacher says, okay, pull out your notebook. He doesn't have a notebook. All of a sudden he shrinks down again. He feels like, okay, I'm different. I'm different. So that's, okay, we want this kid to have a notebook. So we got into that. So not this last school year, but the school year before, when it ended, well, in April, I think we called down to Mr. Brookhouse. I laughed that he's going to block my number because I always call him with these weird questions. And I said, how long? I know that the principals send y'all their list and y'all approve it and then send it back to them, and they give it to the parents. From the time the principal sends it to you and you approve it and the parents see it, how much time is there? He said about a month. And I said, okay, I would like you to give us that list, and in a month's time, we want to see how many of those things we can get donated, and then y'all take them off the list, and the parents don't have to buy them. We collect the money and buy the stuff and get it to the schools. And he says, okay, we'll see. So anyway, they did it, and we raised $130,000 in a month.
Wow.
And that was things that those families didn't have to go out and buy. Those teachers didn't have to go out and buy. And when they got to school in August, the teachers got there, those crayons or pencils or whatever were there. And it worked so well that this year they got us the list in January, and we raised we reduced the list by $263,000 for every elementary school in the parish. The whole list was $591,000, and we were able to reduce it by $263,000. So every elementary school in Calcasieu Parish, public school, had supplies taken off by members of this community. There were about 22 complete grades that got everything donated. Maplewood, since I'm in Sulphur, we'll pick on them. 2nd and 3rd grade had all of their supplies donated. Cypress Cove, I think 2nd grade it was. Frash, 2nd grade, maybe it was 3rd grade at Cypress Cove. Anyway, those parents don't have to buy a single supply this year. And now we received one of the donors that donated last year called me in when I called them and said, hey, it's that time again. I said, we want to talk to you. We're going to give to you, but we want to talk to you. So I thought, oh, great. What have I done now? So I go down there, and they said, we're going to give to you, because if they give $2,500, they get their logo on the supply drive. So the next time you're in Walmart or something, pull up the supply drive and you'll see some logos at the bottom, and that's people that gave us at least $2,500. Some of us gave considerably more, but at least $2,500 buys your spot on there. And they said, we're going to give to you, but make us feel good about buying school supplies for doctors' kids and lawyers' kids. And what they mean is...
Okay, I was going to ask.
What they mean is... when you buy a supply, when you go to our website, it says, okay, Maplewood 2nd grade, to buy all the pencils, it's going to cost you $200. And if you do that, then you're buying for every 2nd grade kid in Maplewood.
Regardless of financial. Okay.
Because it's too hard to print a poor kid and a rich kid supply list. That's not going to do it.
Yeah, and then you've got it. Then you, again, you're actually creating a new system where you're going, well, these kids got supplies and these didn't, so they must be, And
this is just the way it works. Yeah. And so I just told them, first of all, you should never question me because I'm doing God's work. So don't you dare question me. And after they picked themselves up off the floor, no, I said, you have every right to question me. And this is the only way we can do this, is we can't break it up and it's too complicated. And explain to them that with our clothing system, it's different, but this supply drive, this is the only way that we can make it work.
Right.
And I did tell them, though, that some of these families who had all their supplies donated then made a donation to DeWanna's Closet.
I was wondering.
Yes, they did. Several of them and several grandparents did the same thing. Said, this is awesome, really awesome, and it's worth for me not have to go out and fight this fight. Here's money. And anyway, so we don't mind being questioned, and sometimes we don't know the answers, and we'll try. But I thought that was a very legitimate question, because we do. Yeah. That's a good question.
It is.
But that's the way we run the supply drive. Is if a supply gets bought, it gets gets bought for every single family in that. And there's a lot of middle income that can use help too. We received an email from a teacher, and she said, I was really dreading. She said, I'm a single mom and I'm a teacher and I have 3 kids. And she said, I got to tell you, I was dreading seeing those supply lists. And she said, when I pulled it up and saw the size of them, she said, you won't know the pressure that was off my shoulders when I saw that. And I just appreciate what you do.
Yeah.
And then we got an email from a single mom of 3 daughters and a set of twins. And the twins were in a class that got all their supplies donated. And she said, you cannot believe the difference this has made in our summer. And she said, I would like to find some way that my girls and I can come donate some time and help you with a project to thank you for what you've done. And these are all working families that were going to go out and buy these supplies, but now they don't have to. And these are families that normally don't get help or don't go out and ask for help, but we've been able to help them through this program.
I mean, I can relate to what you're saying. I remember when I moved back here in 2004. I'd lived in North Louisiana, as I'd said. I mean, was in a divorce and starting over. I described it to people like my house caught on fire and I got to take what I could fit into a suitcase, and I was raising my kids. I mean, it was a co-domicile situation, but I was struggling. I mean, financially it was hard. 2 households, child support. It was not, I didn't have like some really high paying job. And I remember that feeling. And I did a lot of things that I recall that, it was very humbling. Like, I was talking about this with somebody not on this show, but I remember being signed up for angel food, and like splitting a box of angel food with somebody else, and that was it. It was whatever came in that. Or when school supplies, I remember going to Goodwill and trying to find clothes that were in good shape. And I remember dreading the school supply list and just saving for little slivers of my payday, whatever I could, hoping I would have enough, and then like going, okay, well, I can't get everything, but maybe after school starts, I can get this thing and maybe this binder and that. And I think it's easy to forget that there are people out there that are living off of the shavings or providing for their children off of the shavings. That story about that dad, it wasn't exactly that, but I remember having 2 or 3 uniforms and going, okay, for a full school week, 3 uniforms is not going to make the whole week. And if you're working and just trying to go home, wash, get it done, make sure that, that they didn't look like that they had need. Yeah. They didn't go to school looking like they had need, but there was a type of need. Maybe not that extreme, but I get it. And so that was a long time ago. I don't forget it. And just, I don't know, hearing what you're doing, God, just really those little things like that, taking that load off of those people out there that are just shaving along, just trying to do good with what they've got.
Well, that's what it has just grown into so much more than buying underwear. That's when we started. That's really what we thought we were doing, but it's grown into so much more. We wrote the 501c3 to include clothing, supplies, and food because we wanted not to lock ourselves in. Food is something that we have not gone into because first of all, we don't have the room. We've now moved out of the school into we had a guest house, and we've converted that totally now into the closet.
Oh wow.
It takes up the whole thing. But we had our first school contact us and told us it was in South Lake Charles. Here again, God's showing me this is, within throwing distance of your house almost. 12 kids that they felt went home on Friday and probably didn't have food until they came back to school on Monday. This is in Calcasieu Parish. This is not in Africa. This is in Calcasieu Parish. And, is there any way we could help? And so my parents attend a small church very close to that school. And that church had come to me and given us a donation and said, we would like to work with you in some form if you ever have an opportunity for us to. And so I went to that church. And so now for 2 years, that school is up to 22 kids this year that they feel is in that same situation. So every Friday, they bring. Now y'all do that in Sulphur. Care Help has a wonderful program,
blessings. Right? Yeah, that's why I was going to ask if y'all had ever.
Yes, it's the same. We don't really have that program that I know of in Lake Charles. Anyway, so my parents' church now has partnered, the Nazarene Church there in Lake Charles has partnered with that school and has provided for those. S.J. Welch and Barb have both started food banks on site for their students that they feel like go home on weekends that probably don't have food. And these are schools that you wouldn't think would have that need, but they do.
Yeah.
It is in absolutely every school.
Yeah.
It's not limited to a certain segment of the parish.
I was surprised by that when I had Jody come on and from Care Help and talk about that, and the numbers just kind of floored me.
Yes.
And I've every one of these episodes, when I get to visit with somebody, there's always somebody who listens that says, well, but I have some more information about that y'all didn't talk about. Yeah. And I'd hate to say it with that tone, but I've heard those things and like, well, yeah, but that's not exactly 100% the way it is, and on that, when it came to the food need, somebody said, well, I've seen kids who get those and they eat the fruit roll-ups and they throw it in they're throwing them in the trash and all that. And I said, yeah, and that's going to happen with anything in life. But it's the ones that don't do it, that you just gotta do the shotgun blast and try to hit as many of them as you can, because there are some that are going to take that home and it's going to get them through the weekend. And that's where the naysayer, it's almost like that apathy comes in. It's saying, well, it's whataboutism, I guess, where it's saying, well, some of them are throwing that away, so then should we not do it at all? And I always lean on the side of, it doesn't matter. Yes, do the work, do the good thing, help the ones that are going to get helped.
Right. We're going to make a difference to some.
That's right.
And I'm happy. I know
you're driving down the road. Everything is going just fine. You're listening to the new episode of Find the Good News in your car, and you're all stoked about trying out this zipper merge thing you've been hearing about, when all of a sudden you hear that sickening tap on your windshield that's just a little too loud. I've got some bad news for you. You've just got yourself a rock chip. Unfortunately, I've got some worse news. If you don't take care of that rock chip, it's going to turn into a crack. But I do have some good news too. You don't have to have a rock chip or a crack, because I've got a way for you to take care of it ASAP. If you go to asapglassco.com right now, you can stop that chip from winding across your windshield like the Calcasieu River. I used to be terrible about getting a rock chip, saying I'll take care of that later, and then later turns into this irritating crack that just spreads from one side of my windshield to the other. I should have taken care of it ASAP by scheduling a repair with ASAP Glass. ASAP Glass is local, right here in Sulphur, Louisiana, and they're mobile. Even better, you can get a quote right from your mobile phone at asapglassco.com. ASAP Glass is owned and operated by two of my best friends, lifelong friends, Dan and Kayla Smith. Dan the Glass Man will make sure his team of glass technicians gets to your job ASAP and make sure it's done right so you can keep that windshield crack out of sight. If you do get that rock chip and you don't take care of it ASAP, that's okay. ASAP Glass does complete windshield replacements. Remember, ASAP Glass is mobile, so you don't have to worry about finding time to drop your vehicle off at their shop. You get your quote at asapglassco.com. Make your appointment with Kayla, and then before long, an ASAP Glass van is on its way to your location. That's it. I know you're probably looking at a rock chip right now. Don't wait. Take care of it ASAP. Go to asapglassco.com on your mobile device and get a quote. That's asapglassco.com. And make sure to tell Dan and Kayla you heard about ASAP Glass on Find the Good News.
We're trying to find better ways to do things. One of the things that we're stressing, we did it last summer again this summer, is the different groups and churches have the big events where they invite people onto their campuses and they give the kids a backpack full of school supplies. Well, we've realized after talking to teachers that those kids show up on the first day of school with nothing but the backpack, because as soon as these kids get home, they take everything out of the backpack and they play with it. They cut up the paper with the scissors and they color and they do all that. But they know where the backpack is the first day school starts. So they grab that and run off to school. And so we're encouraging organizations to still have your events and still give the kids the backpack, because that they show up with. But please get those supplies directly to a school. Choose a school and get it there. And so, let's be smart with the money that we're spending.
Sure.
And that's one of the things that we're doing. And I was meeting with the Westlake mayor and his secretary last week, and we were talking about the food issue. And I was telling him, probably if all these other schools have kids that need food, your schools do too. And she was just telling me about a church there that does a feeding program, and they give the families big boxes of food. And here lately, the families haven't even been showing up to pick up these boxes of food, and what a shame that is. And it's true, some families are even too lazy to go get free food, and that's a shame. But maybe if that church could redirect the money that they're spending and just say, okay, we're going to give it directly to kids, we're going to put it in those backpacks. So, let's be wise with how we're spending our money. And if our program isn't working the way that we are doing it now, then let's find another way to get that food home. And maybe it's not expecting that mom and dad to get in the car and come down here. Let's put it in the backpacks of these kids. Let's be wise with what we do.
That kind of touches on a subject I'm just curious about. Have you ever experienced anybody that just refuses to help?
We had one middle school that refused to let their children bring home food. Okay. And the child would stay at school on Friday and eat all the food. Oh. Eat all the food on Friday because they couldn't bring it home.
Oh, the school wouldn't let them bring it home?
No, the parents wouldn't.
The parents wouldn't let the kid bring it home.
Right. So
really?
He would take it, get it on Friday, and eat it all before he left.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the only one we've had any issues with.
Yeah. Have you ever had any schools that have been apprehensive to the program?
Oh, no. Open arms. Open arms. Absolutely. Now, we got... It started off so slow. We opened on that grand opening day, and people came in and they took the stuff. There were a lot of questions like, if it doesn't fit, do I have to return it? And we said, absolutely no. You keep it at your school because you'll have another child that needs it. I see. We keep records of everything we give out, and that's so we know where we're sending stuff and what sizes we send the most of, just kind of to help us. But it was really busy the first day, and then after that it wasn't busy. We went several weeks with like almost nobody. But because I'm not a teacher, I didn't realize that every Thursday teachers couldn't just shut everything down and run down there. I mean, that's really what I thought in my head was going to happen.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so finally Bell City sent me an email and said, can you inter-office mail? We need these shoes, we need this size, can you inter-office mail them? And I shot back my email and I said sure. So I asked the girls, it was on a day we were working, I said, hey, what's inter-office mail? And they said, well, that's where you send it down to central office, and they have these little boxes, and you put it in there, and somebody from the school comes and picks it up. I said, that's the coolest thing ever. So I sent out this email to all the schools and said, we now inter-office mail. So then like our orders went, we were like Amazon. Yeah. And so we went through our first summer. Well, our first summer we do giveaways. Like we've accumulated all this stuff that teachers can use. So we listed it on our Facebook pages, and teachers want it. And so we were bringing boxes and boxes and boxes of stuff down there to inter-office mail. And my son is on the school board. And so one day he called me, he said, Mom, what's your delivery system? And I said, well, we bring it down to the central office and we inter-office mail it. He said, oh, okay. He said, well, I was talking to Mr. Brookhouse today, and he was telling me how wonderful your program is, but y'all kind of needed to work on your delivery system. And he said, Mom, you can't do that because you're not part of the school board. You can't use inter-office mail. And I said, that would be just like if you needed to send something to Sam Houston High School. You had a letter, so you ran down to the school board and gave them your letter. I mean, you can't do that because you're not part of the school system.
I'm not in the system.
You're not in the system, and I'm not in the system. And I wasn't just bringing them one letter. I was bringing them boxes and boxes of stuff. So anyway, I said, you know what? I'd never thought about that. And so anyway, so what we do now is we have delivery drivers that come every week on Thursdays and pick up our orders, and these are all volunteers, and deliver them to all the schools. Okay. And so that worked. Now, last year when we did our supply drive and we raised $130,000, I didn't realize how many boxes of crayons and how many boxes of pencils that was. And all of a sudden, literally 18 wheelers with pallets of supplies started coming to what used to be my guest house and dropping this stuff off. And we were labeling them, and we tried for 2 days to deliver them ourselves. And I thought, I don't know what I'm going to do. Well, I have a cousin and her husband who retired from the school system up in Ouachita Parish, and they happened to be down here. And he said, DeWanna, you call Mr. Brookhouse today and you explain to him your situation. So I did, and I said, Mr. Brookhouse, I've got all this stuff. I don't know what I'm going to do. And he said, how many drivers do you need and when do you need them? I said, I don't know. And so the next day he had 3 drivers and 3 vans there, and they delivered everything for us.
Wow.
And then he said, so after that 2 years ago, and we got together with Mr. Brookhouse and said, okay, this is, it went really good. Let's try it again next year. And he said, okay, next year, you use our warehouses to store your stuff. We will deliver your stuff. So they do all of our school supply stuff for us.
Wow, that's great.
Yes. So we do all the monthly clothes and all that
So
stuff.
y'all have a disbursement system now that works really well.
So they do all of our big school supply stuff for us.
Have you now that you've, it's really, you've got it all kind of, you're continuing to figure it out and tighten the screws. Have you had people in other communities outside of Calcasieu Parish that have said, hey, we want to do this over here. Can you teach us
We
how?
had somebody in East Baton Rouge email us and just said, we really need this system in our parish. What would it take? And I just told him, I said, really, get me some business people and some school people, and I will be more than happy to come talk to you. And we haven't
you just
heard
kind of
any more
give
from
them the presentation.
Yes, we would love to do that. As far as we know, we're the only parish or county in the country that does this.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yes.
This is very unique.
When before we opened, Philip and I researched it because we wanted to go visit a community that did this, mainly to see how they funded it and how they kept it going, and we could not find one. We found several that, like, a church would partner with a school, and they would do used clothing, and they would bring it in, and then they would let families come in and shop and things like that. But we could find absolutely nothing that did what we do with new clothing, and then they maintain it year round, and that they have a delivery system. And as far as we know, nothing. And since we've opened, we've had other people say, oh, we do this, and then we go research it because we want to see, and it's like, no,
it's not the same thing.
It's not the same thing at all. And so as far as we know, we're the only one in the country that does this.
That's really,
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it really is. Have y'all received any recognition at any outside of
No, and we're not really looking for
I don't know.
We ain't got time for that.
Well, I know you're doing the work. That's right. On the same token,
they can send us a check.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say.
Money.
Getting out there like that sometimes generates extra support.
Yes, that would be great. We could definitely use that.
Well, and then if anything else,
But if it could help another community,
get started.
Yes,
right.
Because it just works. It does. It just works. And I had a judge, one of the first places I spoke, one of the local judges, his mom was a teacher, and he came up afterwards and said, DeWanna, if you can just get your message out, he said, this is going to go. He said, this just makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah. Well, look, just sitting here listening to you, I full confession, I can't help but relate it to my own self, my own situation. And I think, God, what a blessing it would have been to have had something like that when I was struggling to get by. And then how, I wonder, I think the way you're doing it too, the way it goes through the school system makes it so much easier, because you said that about that church that had the food boxes. I hate to say this word, and I seem to be using it a lot lately, but I think there's some shame attached to not being able to take care of your people. I remember feeling that shame of needing a resource, or shame of needing help with something, because you just feel like, God, I failed, or I can't do it, or I'm not good enough. And those feelings they create this sort of less than, this person that's separate from other people, and so you don't want to have to go stand in that line, or go put your hands out, or hold your bowl out and say, I need a meal. And I think that's hard for people. And it's a pride that just kicks in. And so, the way y'all are doing it, probably like that family that wouldn't let their child bring the food home, that's maybe a little pride. I don't know what it is. I'm just assuming it has to be a little dose of it. And that's kind of poisonous pride to some degree, because it's not helping you, it's hurting you. Yeah, and I don't know. I think your system it works the way you're describing it, because you get the people get the blessing without having to wear the red letter, so to speak,
And we really don't know. I to this day, I don't know the name of a single child that we've helped.
Wow.
Because the teacher doesn't tell us, the principal or the counselor, they just say, they give us a gender and the sizes they need.
I love that.
And
I love that you don't. That, again, getting back to what you said earlier about, sell us on providing school supplies for doctors and lawyers' children. I love that it's just equal. It's faceless, right? That's a beautiful thing.
And another thing is, in that classroom, when that doctor's kid pulls out their pencil, it's going to look just like the pencil of the kid that's a single parent kid. You know, their pencils all look alike. You know, one of them doesn't have a little hair on the top and all the cute little stuff.
Right.
They're all just alike. You know, and stuff like that. And that's one of the things that one of the teachers said, man, they're all just alike. My scissors are all just alike. You know,
yeah,
this is
they
so
like
cool.
that.
They like that.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
they
I
like
can see that.
So that's one of the things. I guess one of my dreams would be that one day we provide all of them. And if we went from 130 to 260, who's to say that next year we won't be at 590?
That's incredible.
Isn't that cool?
I guess I didn't realize. I mean, it's so. I know you didn't like the name DeWanna's Closet, but because the name, it's crazy. It just implies like a little space and a little closet where maybe there's some stuff. And I mean, it doesn't really portray. I guess I think of like, I don't know if you know anything about like Doctor Who, you know, but he's got the little phone booth.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
But you know, on the outside it's a little phone booth, but when you open it up, it's a big spaceship inside. You know, it's huge, and it makes me think of that. Like you open this little door, it's so humble and simple. But inside is this wonderful.
Well, that's why when people come to our facility and they open it up and there's like, this is like a store, because here's our room with all our pants, and there's a room with all our shirts, and there's a room with all our underwear, and then there's a garage with all the supplies. It's like, wow, this is legit. And it's like, yeah, this is really legit. It's here to stay.
So what's your main vehicle for like getting your mission out there and your message?
Is our Facebook page has been tremendous. We have like 4,500 followers.
Wow, that's healthy.
And it is, because I keep thinking, okay, I need to take a class to learn how to do this stuff, because I've not taken any classes. I haven't taken any classes on fundraisers. I haven't taken any classes on social media. And it's like, I need to do that, but I don't have time to do that.
Sure. That's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. Yeah. But if we raise $263,000 for school supplies and I have $4,500 followers on our Facebook page, maybe I don't need to take a class. Maybe I just need to keep working. I don't know.
It sounds like it's growing.
It's done really well.
You started at about, what, 2016?
16, yeah. We're a little less than 3 years old.
Yeah.
We'll be 3 years in October. But I know that we can do more, and I need to do more. But anyway, so really, I guess Facebook has been our biggest way to get our word out. And then I go out and speak to raise money. I speak to anybody that will let me speak.
Okay.
So I speak in churches. I speak at Rotary clubs. I've spoken. One of my favorite ones is I spoke to a group of 5, and one of them fell asleep. But at the end, they gave me $300, so I didn't care. I was fine. Anyway, so that's just really how we do. But mainly teachers telling each other has been one of the
word of mouth.
Word of mouth has been one of the best ways.
Well, they're your front line. I mean, that's what I'm hearing this whole time, is that they're the eyes. They're the ones that are engaging with the children day to day. They know the needs.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a really, like you have an army.
Yes.
And intelligence.
Yes. And one of our great, then the newspaper did a front page article on us 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
This was very interesting because they called and said, we're running a front page article on you tomorrow, and we would like a picture to go with it. And I'm thinking, you haven't even talked to me. How can you do that?
Interesting. Okay.
But they did it, and it was a good article.
So they just pulled the information from
our social media.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I didn't know you could do that. But anyway, they did. But it was on our project with the chairbacks, which I don't know if you know that whole story.
No, please tell me.
Okay. Chairbacks are these things that fit on the back of a child's chair, and they put their books and things in them.
Right.
Well, 2 years ago, we realized, okay, when you walk into a class of 20, 2 kids don't have chairbacks. Those are the poor kids, and again, they feel different. So we went out and in one day spent $6,300 on chairbacks, which about killed us, because it's like, oh my goodness, this is a lot of money. But we came to yourself for Walmart, because they were the only ones that had them left. It was after school, and had to pay full price for them. They wouldn't discount them or anything. I was crushed, but that's okay. That's all right. Anyway, so we said, okay, we can't do this again next year. We got to find a better way. So one night I was laying in bed watching Shark Tank, and they were making backpacks out of billboards.
Yes, I've seen them.
Okay,
those,
the billboards that come off of off the roads. So I said, okay, if they can do that, we can do chairbacks. So I called our ad agency. Not the Closet doesn't have an ad agency, but Philip and I own a Lake Charles Toyota, and so I called our ad agent and said, can you get me some billboards? And he did. Yeah. So we started making chairbacks out of that vinyl. And first of all, I didn't know how big they were. They're huge.
They're huge. They don't look that big from the ground, but they're huge.
Yeah. We would lay them out in my front yard. We would get out there and cut them. We literally had a woman pass out from the heat one time. It was so hot. And then we would have people that would sew them.
Really? Okay.
And it was very time consuming. It was labor intensive, but we did it. It wasn't costing us anything, but we did it because I said we cannot continue paying this price, but these kids have to have chair backs. So we were able for about a year to keep up and maintain that without spending any money. But the whole time I'm thinking they've got to find a better way. So I made enough phone calls and finally got in touch with Prison Enterprises, which Angola makes things, Angola Prison.
Okay.
And they had never made them before, but I sent them the specs, and they had some vinyl that they use in making mattresses with. And so this year they are making all the chair backs for the whole parish.
Oh, wow.
16,000 of them, and the school board has paid for them.
For the whole parish?
Whole parish. For every I have to say every public school,
Every
because
public
we
school,
don't
right.
serve private schools
Okay.
and the charter schools. Every private elementary school will have a chair back made by Angola Prison and paid for by the school board.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Wow.
So no child will have to buy a chair back.
Wow.
So Walmart software, you will not sell one single chair back. I'll show you for not discounting.
Well, you know,
Not
I was
really.
actually, I
They've
did
been
want to
great.
kind of I mean, you got to call that
They've
out a
been
little
great.
bit, though.
No.
I mean, it is interesting. I mean, I know they have their profit margins and
But
stuff.
in their defense, those were made in Beauregard Parish. I always assume they came from China. They don't. They came from Beauregard Parish. From their, like what we have, Cark. Beauregard Parish has bark.
Oh, okay.
Well, when I
Okay.
found that out, then I felt bad.
I see, because you were. I got you. That explains it a little more. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I brought 300 people. First, I got in touch with them and went and told them what we were doing. And they said, we know, we've been following you. We've been nervous. Said, okay, I can't pay your denim prices, and I can't. And they said, okay, would you bring us some vinyl and let us we will make them. I think they were going to make them for us for $250 a piece if we provided the vinyl, which still meant we had to get down and cut the vinyl and do all that. And I said, okay, we'll do that because you're a nonprofit, I understand. So we brought them 300 pieces of vinyl and brought it up there, and they sewed them for us, and we brought them back, and literally as I was taking them out of my car, they were coming apart.
Oh.
So I have a niece who was in pre-K at the time, so I brought her out there. I said, baby, see if you can pull these apart. And so she was pulling them apart, and so I videoed that and sent the video up to him and said, I'm so sorry, but we cannot use these. But I really tried, even though we were going to still have to do the labor of cutting them all. And so Angola is charging us, I think, $3.10, and that's the material, the labor, and ship to us.
Okay.
So we feel
so you
good
don't have
about
to
that.
you don't have to go out and seek the billboard.
No,
vinyl,
we don't have to have women passing out in my front yard.
Although I gotta say that billboard vinyl option is a good use for that vinyl, because it's really just waste if it's not. I mean,
if we could find somebody to do something with it, because
people do ask me for that kind of stuff too, and I said, well, I have to, like y'all, I have to contact my billboard rep and see what they have. But a lot of people have different needs for them. People have asked me for that, for wrapping bales of hay.
Yes, and they love
all kinds of stuff
to get rid of it. So they love it. So go get it from them if they. Yes.
They're gonna love hearing this when they start getting all these phone calls.
Yes,
But really, it is just gonna go in a, I hate to say it, a landfill, if not used for that.
Yes.
And I'm happy, I know it. I'm helping.
Do you ever hear a good song on the radio that just moves you? Maybe it stirs your heart, but then it starts to move your body too? Do people around you say things like, you've got rhythm, or where do you get your energy? Well, I've got a secret for you. That might be your dance coming out, and the Whistle Stop Dance Sport might be just the job your dance is looking for. I know your first thought, but I don't have any dance experience. That's one of the good things about this opportunity. You don't need years of dance experience to do it. What Whistle Stop Dance Sport is searching for is a multi-dimensional talent. What does that mean? Okay, I'll tell you. You see, dance goes far beyond formal training, though that is a plus. Being able to dance means you can take life by the hand and let it put one arm around your waist and move to the rhythms that flow your way. To be a dance instructor at Whistle Stop Dance Sport, you'd need to have experience working with children, good rhythm, positive energy, and a personality for people. Dance Sport works to enrich children's lives by offering social, emotional, behavioral, and cognitive skills that naturally build confidence. Through dance, these children develop self-esteem, express themselves creatively, and strengthen critical thinking skills. Does the thought of affecting young lives in a positive way stimulate your mind, your heart? Do you want to do something that matters? Something that could really change the course of a young person's life? Then maybe that's why you heard about this dance instructor position with Whistle Stop Dance Sport. You can send your resume or letter to Whistle Stop Dance Sport, 1518 18th Street, Lake Charles, Louisiana, 70601. That's 1518 18th Street, Lake Charles, Louisiana, 70601. Training dates for this position start in July 2019. So if you feel you may be right, don't wait to send in your resume. If you'd like to hear more about this position, call Whistle Stop Dance Sport at 337-515-7577. That's 337-515-7577. And if you do call, do me a favor and let them know you heard about this on Find the Good News. So that's interesting, man. What a great thing.
Yeah.
So many different little ways.
Yes, it is just spread out, doing all kind of. I never dreamed. I just wanted to buy underwear. That's what I was going to do. Buy underwear.
Well, that was one of the questions that's kind of been floating around. I wanted to ask you, like, I mean, rewind before you ever started doing this. I mean, do you ever do that? Like, try to put yourself in that perspective you were in before you ever even had this idea? And do you ever look at it and just go, wow.
Yes.
Like, I never would have imagined this. Like,
because
where did you imagine you were going to be doing when you were?
I guess at this point, I expected that Philip and I would be pretty close to retiring, taking care of grandkids, and just living the good life. And we are living the good life. It's just different than we had thought it would be.
Yeah.
And back to and I didn't mean to pick on Self for Walmart, because I'm heading over there to buy some school supplies, so y'all be nice to me. Anyway, and I understand why they couldn't discount it, because it was helping other people.
Sure.
But we do very much believe in buying local, too. I don't sit down and order my stuff from Amazon, because I am a local business owner. So we do spend a lot of time, traveling and buying things from all the different. I want to buy from Sulphur. I want to buy from Moss Bluff. It's hard in Westlake because they don't have a Walmart, or they don't have it. It's harder to shop in Westlake. But I believe in buying local, keeping as much stuff local as I can. And that's just very important to me. It's important to show my face, so that when they do, the Walmart on Nelson Road just called me the other day, and they had socks for 10 cents a pair. They said, come down. So we loaded buggies of socks that will go out to kids and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like that is something that in the last couple of decades that has really emerged in social, maybe along the same track as social media emerging, is a lot of companies now have this sort of second motive. I mean, they're manufacturing something, definitely. They definitely want to turn a profit, but there's also a need that they're doing. Like, I know there's a sock company that, for every pair of socks you give, they donate so many socks to homeless. Tom Shoes was kind of like that. You buy a pair of Tom Shoes, and it was just like there's this whole trend now. Everybody's got a service attached to their product, and I hope that just continues. Right. Yes. I mean, I buy sunglasses from a company, because I'm funny about those kind of things, because sometimes you can go, they say, we're buy this and we're cleaning the ocean or whatever, and you go look into it and you're like, I mean, like a small little fraction, the truth of it's not what you think. But some companies, if you go dig,
really do.
You're like, wow, they're actually putting a huge chunk of their profits back towards these certain programs, and you can actually go see where the money goes. And I like that. I really do.
One thing I think that people have liked as they found out more about us is that literally every penny, and I think I can still say this safely, that we get goes back to a classroom. We don't pay rent. We're in our guest house. We don't pay utilities. Philip and I said we didn't put any money in the community debt. We pay the overhead. We pay the utilities. Like, our insurance policy is about $6,000 a year. I had no idea it was going to be that much. But we have drivers on the road. We have to insure our contents. We have things like that.
Sure.
So we pay the insurance policy. We just had to pay an accountant to do our taxes. Any stuff like that we pay.
Right.
So when you give us $1, if a school gets a delivery from us, it's in a recycled Walmart bag. I mean, we don't even...
And your time is all volunteer, and everybody else's too, right? So
this is a true story. We had someone drive up to our location, ask me, do you have any paid employees? And we said, no, we don't. And he handed me a check for $5,000.
Wow.
So that was pretty cool. So I'm assuming that was the right answer. Anyway, but yes, nobody draws a salary. Every penny that you donate will go back to a classroom.
That's something.
So we are very, very thrifty. We don't throw anything away. We shop deals. We try. Now, if we get a call from a school that needs a particular size pant for an odd size, and we have to pay $40 or $50 for it to get it, we're going to do it. Another thing that we did that was cost us more. To start with, we had ugly shoes because we bought what we could find on sale. Now, little kids, if they shine or they have those the Disney truck people, I can't think of their name. The tomato tater,
If
cars,
they have those
cars people on them, they're cool. But once you get in middle school and high school, it's more important. Shoes are more important. And like we just found some on sale, and they were really, really ugly. And we became aware they were really ugly. And so we went to some middle school and high school teachers and said, "What kind of shoes can we buy that your kids would feel good when they put them?" And it came back consistently Chuck Taylor Converse. If you buy them Chuck Taylor Converse, they're going to feel good.
Yeah.
So now any middle school or high school that requests a shoe, they get black Chuck Taylor Converse.
That's a good shoe. That's funny because simple shoe.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's affordable.
Yes.
shoe.
So we pay about $35 or $40 a pair, but we again didn't want to put those kids in something that is like, oh my goodness, we wanted them to feel good, and so now they'll fit in and they'll blend, and so that we've been blessed enough financially that we can afford to do that.
Man, listening to this, it touches on just even I have memories of being a kid in school, and I've talked about this with a few people. When I go back and look at like class photos from elementary school, back then there were no school uniforms. Everybody just wore whatever your parents put you in, and somebody made a comment one time when we were looking at those old pictures and flipping through first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, the old black and white picture, and somebody said we all look poor. And I laughed. I said, it's funny. I said, because it's true. We all kind of just looked like we're all from the same class of folks. It wasn't like anybody really thought about that. But I do remember, maybe everybody remembers that as a kid when you started to notice the difference, between what you had and somebody else had, and it affects a kid. It really, really does. I've worried about that with my own children at various points, Are they going to be judged or belittled, or I don't know. That's always stings. And to be able to take that away from kids and take that off their back, that's such a blessing, because they don't have to get trapped in their value.
That's what, and I guess our ultimate goal is just to keep these kids in school, to allow teachers to be able to love them and hopefully show them some of the kids, these teachers are the only love, the only positive they're going to see, and to keep them in school, help them get a high school diploma, and hopefully break the chain that they're in. And that's not all the kids. Some of the kids, we're just helping make an okay life better, and that's okay. But some of these kids, the schools are their absolutely only hope. And if we don't step up as a community, those kids are going to be lost. And so that's ultimately what we're trying to do, is just keep them in school. That's what we're trying to do.
And it's so much more than just their education too, right? They have I could go on a whole nother tangent about the value of teachers in my life. High value. Beyond just teacher. I had the blessing to actually visit with one of those teachers on the show that just was so impactful in my life, and I held her in such high regard, like beyond mentor level. I don't know how else to explain it, but something beyond just an educator.
And I think my husband is running for state representative. That's not a plug, it is a fact. But when we had his announcement party, the person that introduced him was his high school math teacher.
Oh, wow.
And that's a person that so impacted his life, and that's who he wanted to speak. And teachers have always meant a lot to my husband, and they've, meant much more than just a teacher that taught him in the classroom.
I don't always feel like we're valuing teachers enough. I was lucky enough many years ago to do a little documentary for the, I call it a documentary. It was more like a recruitment piece for the school board. And so I got to go around and visit with what I guess they would call some of their star teachers, that really stood out. And boy, honestly, I would say the seeds of doing this show came from doing that project, because I got to do one-on-one, got to talk to them the way we're talking, but film them and then turn it into this beautiful piece. And the whole time I was editing, I would just go in these waves of tears and back to editing and then tears, because of the joy and the way they cared. It just, you could feel it.
Yes.
And during that project, I really realized, like, man, I don't know that I even grasped how important they are to these kids, and you could just see it with each of these teachers.
Yes.
And I'm not going to say and we're all different. People are people. We come in all kinds of shapes and sizes. But this particular crop of teachers all across the parish, just wonderful.
It's amazing. We shared on our Facebook page a post that a principal had posted back when school let out, and about how people ask her, aren't you ready? And she said, yes, I'm excited. I'm excited to spend time with my children. And I had never thought about this, but she said there's certain kids that on that last day hold you a little bit tighter, and that they're just dreading what they're going home to. And she said, all during the summer, I'll be watching the news and I'll be reading the paper, and I'll just be looking for bits, hoping that my kids' names don't appear there. And on that first day of school, I'll be looking and praying that they step off that bus. And I thought, oh my gosh, I just you don't think of things like that. But there's kids out there that these teachers and these principals feel that way about. And they know that their only safe haven is those few hours a day that they're in that loving care of those teachers and those principals. And so,
God, what a powerful thing to let people know about. I mean, it's so easy to get caught up in this. I call it the sin of busyness. I mean, I'm guilty of it. Get caught in the sin of busyness, and you kind of get in your own track and your own head. And for me, I think of it like a magnet, and I love it when the filaments can fall away. But like during the day and in life, you just get all this stuff that starts clustering around you to where you can't see that. There's these people out there hurting, with needs, and then it humanizes them in a way when we can let go of that and like sort of tenderize our heart. And I mean, hearing that, I was at visiting someone's church, and there was a school teacher there who it was the summer, and one of the children had passed away. And I mean, it was like a wave of emotion just spread throughout the congregation, because she wept like she'd lost her own child.
Yeah, these are special people, and I don't understand like why God plucked me out to tell their story. I don't understand why He didn't choose one of them, except their calling is to be in the classroom.
Yeah, sure.
I tell people I couldn't be in there. I would do nothing but cry all day long. That's what I would do, is I would just cry, and so I guess He chose me to just go out, and I can buy underwear and speak. So that's my job, is to buy underwear and speak.
Yeah.
And because I was not raised in an educator's family, my parents were. I only have one sibling, and he's not a teacher. I was not raised around educators. I had no clue what they did.
Yeah.
So they're pretty special people.
Yeah, they are. They really are. I mean, in a lot of ways, I don't know if I've talked about it on the show or not, but and that's why I always try to think of teachers not just in what they're teaching, but just the way they are. And if any teachers are listening today, I mean, and not to segue too far away from what you do, but like the value of just the way they are. I had a teacher who was murdered when I was in high school, and he never, it's kind of strange how timing is, he never singled me out. He didn't put his hand on my shoulder and give me any special treatment or wisdom. But I just, for whatever reason, and it was just my math teacher, it was my algebra teacher, it was like something about the way he was. It was something to me about the way he commanded the class, not in an iron-fisted way, but it was like gentle yet firm. And I always used to watch him, and he still to this day maybe he knows now in the afterlife, but he when there would be trouble in the class or children would act out, the way he navigated that territory, it was like I was watching a documentary about somebody teaching. He was teaching through doing, and I always was fascinated by him. Like, wow, he's so gentle and kind, but yet he navigates with a firmness without being cruel. I was just fascinated by that very sweet spot, that razor's edge that he seemed to walk. And he never knew. I never told him, but I could tell, because he had like scripture and things throughout the room, and I could tell, he never said it, but I could just tell that he was a holy man. Something about him was sort of sacred. And so it was my last day of school that particular year, and I had the week coming up. I I was like, well, I know he likes scripture, and I wanted to do something for him. And I was an illustrator, so I went and found a picture of Jesus, and I drew Jesus knocking on a door. And the scripture, I just said, well, I'm just going to find something, and then I landed on what I tell you in darkness, that speak ye in light. And for some reason that jumped out as the way he was, is like, you've been teaching me, but you didn't know, and I'm going to remember. It was kind of what I got out of what I tell you is in darkness. You're passing something on in secret, but you don't even realize, but I'm going to carry it. And so I gave him that picture, and I remember when I went in to give it to him, he kind of looked like puzzled, like, well, what's this for? And I was embarrassed a little bit, and I just remember telling him, so, well, I just wanted to let you know that I appreciate you, and I kind of scurried out of the room. I never really got to tell him, and then that next school year, he was shot and killed. And so I remember when I went to his funeral, how many people showed up and the love that people expressed. And I got to sit there and listen to people who really knew him basically verify for me as a young person, like, wow, everything that I sensed out of him is accurate. This is the man he really was. He truly portrayed himself through his actions properly. And I don't know, something about that really stuck with me as a kid. And I mean, I've always wanted to model that, I guess. I don't know. And it just made me realize, I guess, as growing up and getting older, when I look at teachers, I just go, I wonder how other kids, if they're doing that too. Do teachers really fully realize, that kids are watching them? They're not just following your instructions, they're watching you, and there are kids that are learning from things from you. They're learning morality, they're learning compassion, they're learning I don't know, the golden rule. I don't know, they're just learning things beyond just the math and the science.
Yes, and these days there's so many kids that is the only teacher of those things that they're going to have. Yeah. More so, I think, than when we were growing up.
Yeah, it's almost more important because, I mean, there's so many other things that can steal children's attention, and teach them if you're not careful,
Yes.
Yeah. Well, okay. So if people want to support what you're doing, do you have like an ongoing place where they can pay?
We do through our website, www.DeWannas. Let me spell this because my mama gave me that name. DEWANNASCLOSET.com. DeWanna's Closet, or just Google something that sounds like it and you should be able to find us. There's a donate thing down there that you can give through, and we are a 501c3, so everything is tax deductible. You may be able to donate through our Facebook page. I'm not sure about that, but anyway, yes, and $5 we are more than happy. The way we shop, that buys 2 shirts plus tax.
Gotcha.
So anyway, so we're good. No amount is too large, little or big, but anyway,
help us out,
help us help, and pray for us that God just continues to show us the needs, provide the means for us to meet those needs, and that we are starting to try to help other people meet needs that doesn't have our names plastered on it. We don't need DeWanna's Closet plastered on things, but as we find opportunities for other groups to go meet needs in schools, we are really supporting them and helping them find those things. And we know what we do, and we do it really well. We don't want to be we don't want to be a nonprofit that burns out because we stretched ourselves too thin. We are not going to let that happen. So just help us to continue doing what we do and meeting those needs. Pray for our teachers as school starts back in less than a month. As hard as that is for them to be back, less than a month, lift them up, that they will continue to be the blessing and teachers that they need to be.
And I'm happy, I know it.
This episode's Fishing for Goodies Fishbowl sponsor is Brimstone Museum and Henning Cultural Center in Sulphur, Louisiana. I don't know what you look for when you travel, but one of the things I look for when I'm putting together my itinerary is a unique museum or gallery in the city I'm traveling to. I do this almost every time I go to a new city, but if I'm being honest, I'm guilty of not always doing that very thing right here at home in Sulphur, Louisiana. That's really a shame, because we have one of the most interesting, historically relevant, and culturally rich corners in any city in the country, about 2 minutes from where I'm sitting right now. I'm talking about the Brimstone Museum and Henning Cultural Center. Have you ever really thought about why our city is named Sulphur? They've got a permanent exhibit on the history of the sulfur industry that answers that simple question and more. You really get a full scope of just how important the sulfur mining industry was to the development of Southwest Louisiana and the impact it had on the rest of the world. Yes, the rest of the world. On the same property, right next door to the museum, is the Henning Cultural Center, presenting some of the most interesting, modern, and culturally relevant local art shows I've ever seen. My dear friend Tom Trahan and the Brimstone Historical Society have really worked hard to give us this treasure, and it's a multifaceted jewel that I plan to take advantage of more often. You don't have to wonder what their hours are, or how to get there, or what shows are coming up. Just go to brimstonemuseum.org like I did, and subscribe to their mailing list right there on the homepage. That's brimstonemuseum.org. Tom will make sure you start getting the announcements for each and every new show at the gallery. But you don't have to wait for the mail to arrive to enjoy this historical local treasure. You don't have to be guilty, like me, of overlooking a local wonder that conveniently sits next to the Grove, one of the most beautiful walking parks in Southwest Louisiana. Drop in and say hi to Tom for me. Tour the museum and center, and make sure to tell Tom that you heard about Brimstone Museum on Find the Good News. Now, let's take that dive in the fishbowl. So, there is a part of the show, I don't know if you've listened to the show. Have you had a chance to
I
listen?
didn't.
Okay.
I'm not going to lie.
Well, you see that fishbowl right here on the table? This fishbowl right next
With all
to your...
the cigarette thing?
No, this right
Oh,
here.
that one. I was going to say one of the matches, cigarettes.
Yeah,
They're
this
not
fishbowl
cigarettes.
with all the stickers all over it. So
Okay.
this is, now we've gotten to know you, but this is sort of, I told my son this last night. I said, the fishbowl doesn't have feelings. It doesn't listen to what we're saying. It's just got questions to ask you. So what each guest on the show does is they pick 3 questions out of there.
Okay.
And then basically let the fishbowl answer you, ask you some questions, and you respond to what's in there.
Okay. 3 at once?
Three. You can pick with one at a time.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. When are you the happiest in relationships? Probably when I am with my family on a cruise ship.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Feels good?
Feels good.
Never been on one.
Oh my goodness. It's away and people are waiting on you and you can eat as much as you want, and when you've had too much of your family you can go shut the door and like leave me alone.
And just
Leave me alone.
Just chill out.
Chill out. Yes. But when they're close enough that when you want to see them, you can see them. So that's that. Yeah. And that's probably my mind because we're planning one, I think, right now.
Fresh in your mind.
Yeah.
I've never been. I mean, I see people who go all the time, and they love it.
Because when my family is at home, we are all working on different things or the same things, and we are all so busy. We don't take time for really each other. We are. I mean, we all, and that sounds terrible, but it is an admission that I'm making. We all go 50 miles an hour, all of us, and I'm stopped 5 minutes and help Philip do this, and then he comes and stops 5 minutes and helps me do this, and then we're blah, 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 blah. And that's just how. So probably, I guess that's because when we're out there on the ocean and we can't really work and we have to shut it down, and my whole family's there. In November, we were there from my dad, who was 87, to our youngest grandchildren, who at the time were 9 months old. So we were all there together, and it was wonderful.
That sounds really nice.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, let's see what the next one is. Well, this is a big one.
That's a would you rather card.
A would you rather change the past or see into the future? I would rather...
That's a tough one.
That is a tough one. See into the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would. What's been done's been done, and I'm okay.
Yeah, you could change the past and you wouldn't be doing this right here.
I would rather see into the future. Yeah.
Maybe avoid a couple of potholes along the way.
Yeah. Things like I would like to know, like, how long am I going to have my parents? Like, 'cause that's the big deal. Because, like, this cruise we're taking is like, my dad will be 88, and we had a Panama Canal cruise planned that he really wanted to go on, and my mom got really sick and couldn't go. And so now we're doing it again because I'm thinking my dad's 88. Like, if I don't do it soon, but my grandmother's 99. She'll be 100 in December. So maybe I can put it off for 5 years, but maybe I can't. So I would say see into the future. I would rather see into the future. The past is the past. I made mistakes, but hey, I learned from them. And
here
I
you
went
are
on.
today.
Here
right?
I am today.
Yeah.
I may not be the same person if I change the past.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Third one. What did you want to be when you were growing up? I wanted to be a nurse. And why? Because I wanted to help people.
Really?
But that's really dumb because I can't stand the sight of blood. And really, when we're watching shows and blood comes on, I cover up my eyes. So I only wanted to be a happy nurse. So I only wanted to be the nurse that brought people their brand new healthy babies. That's all I wanted to do.
Like lightweight, like kind of check the temperature,
Yes,
maybe blood
yes,
pressure, no
yes,
blood, no body.
That's what I wanted to do. Just here's your healthy, beautiful baby.
How when did that start? Was you little? Were you little when that started?
Yes. And I never liked blood, but I always wanted to be a nurse.
Did you see it on TV or something? Or?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I always wanted to be the happy nurse. That's what I wanted to be. And I think I changed my major 4 times in college. And one semester I was nursing, and one was I had no clue what I wanted to do, really. But yeah, it was a nurse.
Wow.
And
now you're helping people.
Now I'm helping people. I'm just not a nurse.
You just always wanted to be a helper, it sounds like. That was in part of your DNA.
Yes,
there.
like I can't even stand like a paper cut. Like I don't know why I want it. That's so dumb. Like when my husband throws up, it's like, just go do it somewhere.
Yeah, I have a strange thing. It's like those things bother me, but like when they happen, I think it's just something overrides, and I go into this mode where it doesn't bother me, but I really don't like it.
Yeah.
But I'm okay to deal with it, if that makes any sense. But I do meet people who, like, I had a friend, real tough guy that I went to high school with, one of my dear friends, but man, when blood would show up, he'd turn white as a piece of paper. And
I just don't like it. Like when violence comes on TV, like I cover up my eyes. Still, I'm 6 years old, still cover up my eyes. But anyway, like what was the movie that came out about Jesus that everybody...
Oh, The Passion.
The Passion. Like even the preachers that didn't go to movies went to see. Yeah. Like it was the same way. It's like...
It's a hard movie to watch.
It was very hard.
It's still hard to watch. I watch it once a year and it's
like
hard.
I feel bad about this, but Jesus, you have to understand, I cover up my eyes for all the movies.
That's a hard film to watch. It really, really is hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just don't even, I just always cover up my eyes. So anyway, I was going to be a nurse, but I ended up I help people. I give Band-Aids to kids in school now.
Yeah.
So that's what I do. So yes. Anyway, so those are my 3 answers.
This was a lot of fun, and just honestly just eye-opening for me, and I hope it's eye-opening for other people too. I mean, there's probably listeners that just don't really fully know. Again, like me, unfortunately, that heard the name, thought closet, real small little door.
Yeah,
what a big
Thank you.
Big service.
If you're out there in any other community and would like to start this, it is amazing. We would be glad to help you in any way we can. Just shoot us an email and we will be glad to correspond. If you're local and want to help us out financially, that would be great. We would take it, or just keep us in your prayers and your thoughts and keep those teachers lifted up.
Will do.
And I love you just as well.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Find the Good News. If you would like to advertise on this show or sponsor an episode, just visit findthegood.news. Send me a message and we'll see about getting your business, organization, service, product, or event on the show. I deeply thank each of you again for supporting this podcast.